Devotion to Saint Joseph has become a pious practice in the Church thanks to the personal devotion of many popes. Having inaugurated his Patron ministry on the 19th of March, the feast of Saint Joseph, Pope Francis never shied away from speaking about his love for the foster father of Jesus and the husband of Mary throughout his 12-year pontificate.
Yo quisiera también decirles una cosa muy personal.
I would also like to tell you something very personal. I have great love for Saint Joseph because he is a man of silence and strength. On my table, I have an image of Saint Joseph sleeping. Even when he is asleep, he is taking care of the Church. Yes, we know that he can do that. So when I have a problem, a difficulty, I write a little note and I put it underneath Saint Joseph so that he can dream about it. In other words, I tell him, pray for this problem.
Esto significa para que rece por ese problema.
Soon after his apostolic journey to the Philippines in 2015, the sleeping Saint Joseph, the man who listened to God's will even in his dreams, became a popular intercessor for Catholics around the world. Pope Francis also proclaimed the Church's first ever Year of Saint Joseph in his 2020 apostolic letter Patris Corde, with a father's heart. To commemorate the 150th anniversary, the Holy Patriarch was named Patron of the Universal Church by Pope Pius IX in 1870.
Already in 1847, a year after his election, he declared that the Feast of Saint Joseph should be a universal feast, because until then it had been celebrated in some dioceses, but not universally.
Quella data fu celebrata in qualche ordine, in qualche diocesi, ma non a livello universale.
From that moment on, it was universal. And then, of course, this impetus he gave at the beginning of his pontificate bore fruit, so that by 1870, the desire of the Universal Church was truly ripe.
Veramente il desiderio della Chiesa universale era maturo nel 1870.
In 1889, Pope Leo XIII released Quamquam Pluries, the Church's first encyclical dedicated to Saint Joseph. It is then natural and worthy that as the Blessed Joseph ministered to all the needs of the family at Nazareth and girded about with his protection, he should now cover with the cloak of his heavenly patronage and defend the Church of Jesus Christ.
Pensiamo a quanto è stato nella Chiesa.
Let's think about it. How long has he been in the Church? How many statues of Saint Joseph are there in the Church where people go to pray? And let's think about the novenas before his feasts. How many people in Italy, but also in other countries, celebrate the feast of Saint Joseph? If we enter into the homes of families with children, how many statues and images of Saint Joseph do we find? Therefore, I say yes, even today in the 21st century, we find that grain of wheat that once sowed in the ground among the faithful.
Quel chicco di grano che Pio IX ha messo nella terra, lo troviamo tra I fedeli.
Pius X approved the widely known Litany of Saint Joseph in 1909, and in 1920, Benedict XV included Joseph's name in the Divine Praises. Then in 1955, Pius XII instituted the 1st of May as the memorial of Saint Joseph the Worker.
Giovanni XXIII, lui...
Again, John 23rd. He inserted the name of Saint Joseph into the canon, precisely in the first Eucharistic prayer, placing it immediately after the Virgin Mary.
In 2013, Pope Francis decreed the addition of Saint Joseph's name to Eucharistic prayers 2, 3, and 4, thus finalizing the work initiated by John XXIII in 1962 to include the saint in the Eucharistic prayers of the Holy Mass.
And so now, for the upcoming feast of Saint Joseph, we can see Saint Joseph in his humanity. He had the respect, the virginity of the Virgin Mary. Then he found his wife pregnant. So how many feelings did Saint Joseph have in his heart that he had to rework? He had to flee to Egypt. He was poor and a stranger. He left everything behind. For what? For a child who was not even his own, but was indeed the Son of God, whom St. Joseph loved deeply throughout his life. And we, meditating on these feelings of St. Joseph, can learn a lot of our own lives and perhaps even put something right in our own lives.
E mette forse anche a posto qualcosa nella nostra vita.